right, welcome back. Today I have Giovanni Greco and my friend Mariah Byrd. Giovanni, this is your second time, so welcome back.
Thank you.
Mariah, this is your first time, so
First time.
welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome.
It's good to be here.
It's nice to have you.
Thanks.
So a lot of people don't know, but this is the third attempt at trying to do something on YouTube, let's say. The first attempt, I was actually Catholic, and the name of the show was Tolerance, and I would sit with my friend Jimmy, and who was an atheist, and talk about the clashes in like religion and science and stuff like that. But my whole thing was always kind of like bringing it back to more of agreements than it was disagreements. Right. So like I was really good at taking what he was giving me and like kind of making him realize like that doesn't necessarily have to go against Catholicism.
Right.
And it only went 2 episodes before we got anywhere with it. But
This is the first time I'm learning about that, actually. I didn't know that information.
I only just remembered like 2 days ago thinking about this episode.
All right.
Because when I found out that I was going to have you on, I wanted to talk about Joe Schmo.
Okay, yeah.
So she helped me with the second attempt. And what I tried to do was I would walk and I would talk about like processing emotions, because I was just learning about how much emotions have impacted my life, or rather the suppression of my emotions have impacted my life.
Right. Yeah, so it was like this rap kind of poetry just video, like where he would just write all of these amazing and like so powerful lyrics.
Yeah.
And
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about when we were like walking down Sterling Hills.
Oh,
I forgot about that.
I mean, we had a lot of different forms, so like we were just trying to find a location that kind of fit with what he was trying to express.
Right.
And so, we did a lot of we made quite a few videos.
We did. Yeah. We had like a little bit of a library, but one of the things I really wanted to talk about today was the reason why I didn't post it. There was a lot of stuff I was going through while I was recording that. One of them being I was still homeless. Like, I don't know if you remember, you would drop me off at Publix.
Yeah.
And I would walk to my tent.
Yeah.
And there was a point where my tent was taken out by a hurricane, and like I would just wind up sleeping in the back of the Publix parking lot, which I would wind up later working for. I tried to do all this going through that.
Right.
Did you want to say?
Yeah. I think my headphones went off. But yeah, just to say, like, that is beautiful, because at the end of the day, what is art? And one of the things about art is sometimes it's communication when words aren't enough.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like sometimes, like, that's one of those few examples where, like, you can express yourself without being judged, is when you're doing it through an artistic field. I don't know if you're in the arts as well.
I don't know that I really partake in arts. I love them. Like, I am a big advocate for like Broadway shows and all forms of art.
Right.
I like the arts. I'm really big into the arts, all forms. There's just something you feel about it. Like, you feel someone's expression through it, which is what I really like. I wish I was artistic, like I could draw or something like that, or musically. I would love to express myself in those ways. I'm just not talented like that.
How would you say you express yourself?
I've been getting into journaling lately.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love journaling.
So at the start of this year, I was like, let's make it a thing to journal. And so, I try to journal like every day. I've fallen a little behind, I'm not going to lie. But
it's one of the new habits I'm trying to do is journal every day.
I do. I try to journal every day. I have a one on my phone where it like asks me questions and prompts me. And then I have...
It's an Apple phone, bro.
That's
like,
that sounds great.
If you go somewhere, it'll prompt you to write about that visit.
Yeah.
Like, really? It is so cool. I was very impressed with that app, for sure.
What's the name of the app?
Journal.
I think it's called Journal.
Yeah, just called Journal. And it came with the new upgrade. Like, I didn't have to download it or anything.
True.
It just popped up.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, do you, like, after you journal and stuff like that, do you ever go back to reflect on it?
Always.
Okay, so I have a journal that I handwrite in, and it always says... It's like a burn journal.
I like that.
Yeah, so...
I'm the opposite.
So it is, earth-friendly, and the purpose of writing in that journal is to just get everything out that you want to get out, and then you just burn it. You never read it. That's what it prompts you to do.
So when I journal, it's more about So it depends, actually. It really all depends on my day.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's being grateful for my day and like addressing things that have happened.
Yeah.
So like, oh, I noticed today that this upset me, but why did this upset me? And then start going into those emotions. So my journal is just pure investigating my emotional state.
Why?
Right.
What triggered it?
Exactly.
Everything.
But
yeah.
at the end of the day, it's a tool. It's a
Correct.
tool, and sometimes you could use
It's
it for
liberating.
yours for you to like learn about yourself and self improve, or you can just use it like yours for you to vent.
There's very
Right.
many ways.
That's both. That's both
Correct.
makes sense.
And then for those who don't know, how do you express yourself?
I mean, for me, I do it again. I do it through the arts. I think I do it for acting and voice
yeah.
acting stuff like that because every human being, and I feel like this, that we have, I would say, around 70% in common. And it's their 30% that we don't. And this 30% is just through our culture or, if we're male or female or what even era that we grew up in. But that part can be learned. But we've all felt sad. We've all felt lonely.
Right.
We all felt love that was not reciprocated back. And this is thing we feel like it's a personal experience. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a very
Everyone's
human-
feel, we just don't
it's
talk
a human
about it.
experience.
Right.
For
And
sure.
it's just different also for everyone involved. Like, we're all going to go through these same feelings, but we're not exactly going to feel the same way.
No.
Which is what's amazing about, things that we go through in life.
And at the time, like I was recording Joe Schmo, there was a lot of insecurity and a lot of lack of self-worth.
Right.
So like there wasn't any of this confidence that I have now, and like just getting through that, it was something that journaling helped me with, and even things like acting and dancing, like any really expression of self really gets you out of your head essentially, and then it can help you assess situations better.
So let me ask you this. Let's just say I had this kind of power that I could wave a wand and I could pretend like, okay, Joe, you don't even have that recollection of being homeless. That never happened. Would you want me to do that? Or do you feel like that
Nope.
heart
That
made
was-
you like help you to develop who you were?
That was that was probably the most crucial point in my life, because that was when I decided to address the neglect towards myself. So like I would choose drugs over food. I would just make self-destructive decisions without realizing it. And when I lived in a tent, I would walk to work, walk back to the tent, spend hours alone journaling. Like, it's a practice that I've been practicing for a while. And when I was in the tent, it was something I'd had to do every day. You didn't have that luxury of being comfortable.
Right.
And that was the point of doing it. I didn't do it because I had to. I did it because I got burned. And I did it because if I didn't, I would have to live with my parents that forced me to take medication for a mental illness I didn't have, which I was aware of, but they weren't.
Right.
What's also crazy is you said with the art that we created together, you didn't feel confident in it and you didn't like really stand behind it. But from my perspective, it was great. And you were expressing yourself in ways that people couldn't dream to do.
And one thing I'm learning, especially through Sebastian, who is producing the show, Future Ed Strategies, and one thing I've learned is I have to ignore all of that.
Sure.
That insecurity, like now, and I do, like, because I am so self-critical to the point where no wonder why I was crippled by it. Like, when you're raised in a family of 8 and you're told that, why is it always you? Like, why are you always the problem child? Like, why can't you pass school? Why, we know you're smart, but why can't you do this? And why is it always your fault? Type shit.
Yeah.
That stuff literally seeps into the way you perceive yourself and the world around you.
Yeah.
So I am still suffering from those little things. And
That's been ingrained in you for
Yeah.
your entire life.
And the way I
that's
work-
hard to change overnight.
But it's a unique experience that you have.
Yeah.
It's not, and not many people do have like 8 siblings and stuff like that. So you have a unique perspective of how do I even stand out with 8 people too, right?
and then add in the, like, ADHD.
ADHD.
And like everything else, it's no wonder why I was the way I was, but it's also like, damn, this lack of confidence that I still experience a lot less, and I ignore it now because of SB. Like he helps me. Like he's like, no, that's great. It's going out, and so I've literally given him reins to like, listen, if you think it's good, put it out, because if I have control over it, I won't release anything.
Look, I know we touched on a topic outside earlier today, and I just would like to quote J. Cole really quick. He says he has all this great music, but he holds it, waiting for this perfect moment.
Right.
And then everyone's like, there is no perfect moment.
Right.
Put it out.
But it's easy to say. But that's why I just surrendered. I surrendered the green light to Sebastian, because it's honestly, I am still struggling with a lot of those things, as we all do, like especially because it's been happening for such a long period of time.
Right.
And a part of the show is like also letting people know I'm nowhere near get rid of all of this.
Right.
Like this is still very present in my life.
But I'll let you know this, that whole fear and anxiety, you make peace with it and it'll subside, but it'll never be 100% gone.
And that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah,
like
it'll never be 100% gone.
And I kind of look at it, and it's like detached from me. It's like, oh wow, like I'm
Yeah.
still very insecure, but because I'm aware of it, like I don't have to let it control me anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's important, too, that you're doing this in a safe space with people that you can trust and people that see your vision and are here to support you.
Yeah, it's crazy how all this is coming together.
I had a quote, and this was from a fellow actor of mine, when he says, with fear, don't run away from it, run towards it. Because it's a new experience. Because it's the fear, it's always the uncertainty, right?
Right.
You don't know how this is going to be perceived and how the people are going to view about it. But at the end of the day, if it's you, why not?
Yeah,
Because
it's going to pull something different out of you.
Why would you want to be anything other than yourself? And the reason why I say that anxiety doesn't go away 100% is because I still audition and stuff like that. And I've always have that back in the fear, like, what if they hate it and this and that. But I've even talked to veterans who've been doing this
And they still have
for 30 years, and they have that. And you said yourself, someone like J. Cole. J. Cole is probably one of the most recognized hip-hop artists today, right? He's a household name. And for someone like him, who gets a lot of praise throughout the world from people who don't even speak his language, someone like that who still feels like, what if this sucks?
Yeah.
That's something. That's
Yeah.
something to tell you, that someone who has the accolades of J. Cole still has in the back of his mind being like, what if this isn't good enough? What if I'm not good enough?
Yeah.
And you said something about the fear,
Right.
like approach, like running towards it, not away from it. And with like the way you kind of do that is, first off, you make a promise to yourself. If you start to feel fear, don't make a decision until you confront it. Because any decision based out of fear or based out of any emotion that is no longer in your control is not a conscious one. Right. So that can go from fear to excitement to like bliss, all of it. Yeah. And unless you're really trying to separate yourself from the way you feel about a situation, and with that takes practice, it's really hard to like word how that would work. Yeah. But like what I do is I try to, okay, well, what if I wasn't afraid of this?
Right.
And like, what would I do?
What would the outcome be, right?
What if I wasn't just being sold this car by this dude who just made me so excited? Like, look at the facts kind of deal.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you start to really break down the process of how you react to situations.
Yeah. Well, they're animalistic impulses, right? And we've had them since it's reptilian. It's like since the dawn of like humanity and stuff like that. Those things are meant to keep you to survive and to keep you safe.
And
they're
they're
meant
valid.
to keep you. Yeah, they're valid.
Very
but they're
valid.
not there for you to thrive or to be something huge than you are. They're just there to keep you safe.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. This is good knowledge.
Another thing was like, I wanted to be perfect.
Right.
Before I like released anything, because I talk about being free from emotion, and I talk about like being off of like medications and stuff like that. But especially in the tent when we were doing Joe Schmo, I still had an issue with Adderall. I still had an issue with like making the right just spending too much money on pot and cigarettes and just bad habits.
Yeah.
Just really bad habits. And because of those bad habits, like I tried to not show any of that. And like I wanted to make that very clear about this show. It's like this is all a part of who I am. Not that I struggle with like Adderall anymore, but I do still smoke pot and I do still smoke cigarettes. And if I had that feeling that, well, I can't smoke cigarettes if I'm going to have a podcast about being healthy and like mentally straight. But it's like that's kind of the whole point, because I'm on a journey and still struggling with a lot of this stuff is I think what's going to help people get through it as well, because there is no such thing as perfect. There's only self-acceptance and love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the more I accept myself, the more these things that controlled me start to just fall off.
It's the idea of do these things have control over you, or you have control over them? That's the thing about it. Like as long as you have a mastery over these things, it's I think it's fine. But when they have a control over you, that's the problem. Like one good example is someone. If we're talking about like in ancient Roman times, there was an emperor, Marcus Aurelius, and he wrote Meditations. One thing about him, he was the emperor of Rome, so he was the most powerful man in the ancient world. This man, he would do this once a week, I believe, and he would sleep on the floor. And the reason why he did this is for him to remove himself from luxuries from the moment, to show like these things don't have a control over me. I have these things because I want them, but I don't need these to survive.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, I'm definitely at that point in my life now, except for probably cigarettes. I am really hooked on cigarettes.
You know what I like, though, is like you said earlier, you're not a pretender. So if you come in here and you're going through something and you act like you're not going through that, it's not authentic and it doesn't feel right to you.
And
so you're
people
not
pick
going
it
to
up
use
too.
it. Right.
Like it's just obvious.
So often people are just okay with putting up a front and like they just live their lives miserable that way. And it shows like how much growth you've made.
Yeah.
Just
'cause
being able to do that.
You've been a family friend for a long time.
A long time.
Very long time.
Long time.
And not even with me. It was my older sister.
Yeah.
Like
I've been around.
Yeah.
I've been around.
Yeah, she knows the family dramas, the family.
Some of it. I've been disconnected for a little
Probably
while
for
now.
your benefit.
Yeah.
Probably for your benefit.
But I mean, yeah, I've known Joey for a long time, and you know we've gotten closer over the years. But yeah, just like you have a vision and you want to see it out, and you want to benefit as many people as possible. And I asked you earlier, like, what was it that brought you back to this?
So really, so what happened was, I want to like try to get it all in like linear.
Sure.
Like, so I think what happened is after I gave up on Joe Schmo, I went back into survival mode in the sense that my son was born. Like, I wound up getting somewhere to live. I wound up working a job like that took a lot out of me, and I fell back into that cycle of survival and like just trying to get to paycheck, try to be the best parent I can be by working more, burning myself out, becoming a worse parent at the same time. And then this cycle would happen over and over for like 6 years. Yeah. And when I was at Publix one day, there's a lot of different aspects, but with the reading material of like the Bhagavad Gita and then starting reading like Atomic Habits, and then there was Running on Empty. There was so many books that had such an impact on my life, and I realized that me living my life this way is only killing me. It made me realize like I gotta stop doing this and start working on me. And then the more I started working on me, the more creative I got. And the more creative I got, I wound up right back here.
Yeah.
And except this time, with the book Atomic Habits, I was able to start building those foundations of an actual nonprofit or podcast or whatever it is I want to build, because I'm setting the time to discipline myself and take care of myself. And it led me here again.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's powerful. That's a calling. That's
absolutely
something that's instilled in you that is never going to go away, so stop ignoring it.
And that's it. It was that voice in my head that I just kept shutting up, and now it's not. And it's like I've never been happier. Yeah. My son's never been happier. My girlfriend is on her own journey. So like it's growth.
Yeah.
And that's a huge change in your life to become a father. I'm sure you went through a whole little. Even before that, you went through your own personal Kali Yuga. You could probably say.
I actually just listened to Alan Watts talk about personal Kali Yugas, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Because there's some points, and I think everyone goes through this.
And you
just have you have almost like a bad year or just a whole bad experience in life, and you're thinking, when is this shit gonna end?
It was 3 years.
Yeah.
It was 3 years,
Yeah.
and Peter was born in the year in the middle.
Yeah, but you go through a breakthrough afterwards.
And dude, the breakthrough, multiple breakthroughs. It still hasn't stopped.
Right.
And because I was homeless when Peter was born too, and unemployed.
Oof.
And her parents hated me because I took her away from the Catholic Church.
Right.
And I got her pregnant before marriage. And it made things very, very hard.
Right. I could imagine.
And that in itself, there's a reason why I felt all this stuff. Because, when you get told you'd rather your daughter have been raped than me be in the picture.
Wow.
That shit sticks. And, you can ask my son's mom. That was said to me and to her in front of her family.
Right.
So it's me and him have a great relationship now, one that we worked on. But that was at the core of a lot of me not being a good father.
Right.
That was really what was
It was also very dehumanizing too.
making me
Right. Everyone just kept telling you you're not good enough.
correct. It was
Over
constant.
and over and over.
It was constant.
Right.
And I just want people to know that if this has happened to you, because it's happened to so many people, it's it's a trait of being autistic.
Yeah.
To be constantly defending yourself, and to be told for 30 years, because it really was about 2 years ago that it started to break down. The depression started, and then I started to address the depression because this isn't my first rodeo.
Right.
And I started to really dive deep into it. And it's people can get through that mentality with daily practices of just loving yourself and affirming yourself and really just being grateful for where you are, who you are right now.
Yeah. It takes a strong person to do that because
Sometimes
it's so much easier to run from it, right?
You're right.
No one wants to address the issue because it's that's really going to hurt and that's really going to suck for me mentally, and I'm already not in a good mental place. So, am I going to go down this black rabbit hole? No. I'll just stuff it. I'm just going to keep stuffing it until I implode.
That's the easy thing to do.
That's the easy thing to do.
But I'm tired of it. There was a point where it was just, when you know what you're doing, you can't really do it for very long. When you know you're ignoring your shit, and then you ask yourself, oh, why is my life like this? You can't, because you know why your life is like this. You've made these choices. You're aware of these choices that you've made. But you might not be aware of the underlying automatic behavior beneath it until you stop and analyze it.
But that's the thing. That's the catch. Is the thing is people, we subconsciously love pattern. We love the idea of, we just want to be comfortable. That's why people even go during abusive relationships in situations where people are toxic.
Yeah,
they
but
enjoy it because it's comfortable.
Yeah, the person's
they're used
around.
to.
There's still going to be someone there at the end of the day. They won't be alone. Yeah.
Right. But when you break out to that, you're going to something completely different. You're breaking off that pattern. Now you have no idea where you're going. And that's why a lot of people rather do something that's safe, but it's more of a detriment than a break off and something that has the potential of being beneficial, but it could also be a detriment also. But it's something that it's unexplored.
Yeah, people struggle with failure. I do. I definitely do.
100%.
I'm smart. I know that, and I know that if I really set my mind to something, I can accomplish it. But the thought of maybe not reaching that goal keeps me from doing it.
Right.
So I've adopted a new kind of mindset, and it's I've done it a while ago. Each failure is just only a step closer to success, because especially in a new world, in an entirely new frame of thinking and seeing the world, you're literally like a child again. And in order to move forward, it's like trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. And the less I addressed it, like let's say in the beginning, the reason why that cycle kept happening over and over, like I would quit my job thinking like this isn't for me, but then not learning anything about myself, I would try to find another job, not realizing it's this 9 to 5 that's killing me. It's this this normal workflow that we're all expected to work that is literally not designed for my brain. No. Like I cannot do this shit that let's just say normal people can, and it sometimes sucks. But then again, I'm also really grateful for the fact that like my mind is built for this kind of stuff.
Right.
It's not built to be stocking shelves. It's like it was eating me alive, and I just lost my point because I was just thinking about it.
No, that happens to a lot of people. I mean, the difference is a lot of people try to be comfortable with it. They settle. So that's the thing. But I feel like humans, for the most part, we are creative in nature, right? That's
I
the
agree
reason.
with that
That's
too.
the reason why Homo sapiens defeated the Neanderthals, is because we had the idea of making spears and bows and slings. We're creative in nature.
There's a great documentary on Neanderthals on Netflix, by the way.
Really?
Okay.
Super good.
Plug.
Plug it. What's the name of it?
Neanderthals.
Neanderthals, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying we're creative in nature, but this whole thing of working a 9 to 5 and just doing that is an unnatural thing. Now I know we need to do that to build societies, to create people need to work, but at the same time,
Yeah, but there's societies out there that don't do that at all. Like when we think about ancient societies, I should say,
Right.
Because what we can take from the past is like they lived in groups that were always moving, and
Right.
that they had societies that literally went with the flow of nature. They followed food. They
So
like
nomadic.
we were just talking about
Nomadic,
this.
yeah.
We were just talking about this earlier.
Yeah, like-
and it's just. There's an awesome book, Hunter-Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century. And the truth is we are hunter-gatherers. Like it's ingrained in our DNA. And the less we are hunting and gathering, the more effects we'll see on our brain, like go haywire.
Right.
Because we're going against our instincts. And we said it earlier, like we're literally hardwired to go against our instincts to fit into societal norms.
Right, because that's what they tell us to do.
We're
because
forced to.
That's literally all we hear from the moment we're born. It's just like, go to school, go to college, get a job, work that job until you're 75.
right.
And I think the Catholic Church let me see through that early. Like that was one of the blessings the Catholic Church did give me. Was like I saw through this bullshit at a very young age, to the point where I didn't give a shit about school because I was going to be a priest.
Right.
I spent all my extra time at church because I was good at it. Spirituality came natural, and it fucking felt right. And it helped me see through that materialistic veil.
Right.
And I feel very lucky for that, because that also helped me see through all of this other shit, like the 9 to 5. Like it just helped me not settle for societal norms.
So let me ask you this: when was the breaking point between you and the Catholic Church? Then?
When I read a book from Sam Harris called Waking Up, and it fucked me up. Because I like to tell people my faith, I didn't like give up my faith. My faith was taken from me. Because when I hear certain things and like see certain things that go against the Catholic Church, in a world that's black and white, it discredits everything. And I always loved science. I've always loved facts.
Right.
And
Facts.
it just discredited everything. And my life fell apart. But little did I know that I was still living in a world of black and white. And it was the Bhagavad Gita and music festivals. Really, my first music festival reawakened spirituality. Didn't know how to control it or direct it or phrase it. But then the Bhagavad Gita just explained everything so perfectly, in the sense that we are all one, and to be of service to your fellow man is like serving God, because we are all God. And like the Catholic Church wasn't wrong, it just wasn't entirely right. And that's how I feel about religion as a whole, because I'm a spiritual person now. My first spiritual experience was at 6 years old, and to have multiple up until I was 18, 19, is a blessing. But then to throw it away, it was very confusing.
Yeah.
So it like and then trauma on top of it, and then a kid, and then like there was a lot of layers I had to really
it must
peel
have been
back.
very difficult because I know, like, I mean, you being Italian as it is, the Catholic Church is also ingrained also into your culture. So it's
100%.
almost like not only you're just getting rid of yourself on a spiritual sense, but you're also getting rid of a lot of your identity. Because a lot of Italian festivals are based on saints and certain Catholic practices. So when you get rid of that, like you're almost stripping a lot of your identity, which almost feels like, no, I want to retain this.
That's why I fell apart.
Right.
I mean, I walked away from the Catholic Church for the same reasons.
Okay.
So I started later in life, like, you know, as far as baptism and all of that, because my father is not Catholic and my mother was.
Okay.
So they never baptized me and my brother when we were young.
I remember you getting baptized, by the way.
And so when I was in high school, I was like, I want to start going to like Bible study classes and getting baptized and receiving confirmation. So I did all of that on my own. And after I did that, there was like a couple years where I would go to church and I just felt like filled with so much love and
Joy.
light.
That's awesome.
And like sitting in there, it was like I was the only person in there, and like everything was just being said to me.
So
And
like a spiritual experience.
Oh, I was absorbing it. It felt like nothing I've ever felt before.
That's awesome.
And then, you know, life happens. You start getting older. You start experiencing different things. And it's like, according to the Catholic Church, you're a sinner. You're bad. You're terrible. How are you not living the way you're supposed to be living in our book?
Right.
And I'm like, but I'm a good person. I'm a good person. And I see all these people that go to church fucking 7 days a week, and they're awful.
Right.
They're so hypocritical.
Just by name. They're
just
Catholic by name.
And I'm
that's
just
it.
like, well, I don't want to be that.
And the beautiful thing about like, let's say the Catholic Church is the truth that remains inside of it is there, but it's so cryptic that when people try to hold on to it, like they turn into these people that are like the opposite of Catholic.
Right.
And what I realized coming to my spirituality again is like I am more Christian and Catholic now than I've ever been before, but like there is no belief in God in the way that you think. There is no like sin in the way that you think. The only way we can sin is if we are lying to ourselves.
Right.
And if we are lying to ourselves, then that is the greatest sin we can do because we are distorting our reality every time we do. And to detach yourself from the present is it's what I try to practice, like, not to do,
Yeah.
essentially.
Well, that's the good thing about, I mean, one of the positives about like organized religion is the fact you create a community and all these people have ideally the same belief system and they're supposed to, you view yourself as a part of a community which creates belonging. But the detriment is, of course, is with us in the inside, what's the outside then? They're the other. And that's when that tribalism comes in. And the
Right.
black and white helps the sense that, like, you feel more sated, like, okay, so I know this is correct and this is incorrect. So that's for a lot of people, that's a good way of framing things. Because some people don't want to delve into these sorts of inner conflicts that they have. Some people just want to know, that's bad, I'll avoid that.
Well, it's easier to
Right.
do that.
It's easy, of
That's
course.
why
And
it's easier to, like, reject homeless people and,
Right.
like, to talk down to drug people who are addicted to drugs.
Right.
It's easier.
And it just, all it does is just divide us more when we all need to be coming together.
Right.
And that's why Catholicism, like going back to it in the sense of accepting my past and like almost using them as a part of my future, because in order to help our kids and to help even our young adults, we're going to need psychiatrists, we're going to need therapists, we're going to need ministers, we're going to need priests, we're going to need all people on board realizing that we're all on the same team and that we might have some differences, that 70-30 that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. But what brings us together is that we're all suffering because we aren't creating communities that are helping each other. We are creating communities that are fighting each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I love that optimism about you, but one thing I feel like it's very hard to unify people in a broader sense without having a common enemy or a common villain. Because if you notice, like, I mean, we're all old enough that we've experienced, something like 9/11. And 9/11 one thing it brought good was the fact that there was a sense of unity amongst everybody. But it was unity where we saw camaraderie of us being Americans, but we targeted people in exchange of that.
100.
We had to create an outside, and so many like Muslim Americans were targeted because of this. But it did bring a
Correct.
sense of unity of us as just American citizens.
So I really hope that people will understand the attack on our youth today as the common enemy. And it's us. Not like you guys, because you don't
I'm
have
attacking
kids.
people all the time.
Because I choose violence every morning.
Every day.
But like even the fact we send our kids to school, their brains aren't designed for a classroom 8 hours a day. Like we are ripping them out of their hardwired like DNA to put them into a system that is only meant to serve other people. Like our children are being attacked, and then we are seeing the effects of us being attacked 20 years ago today,
Yeah,
especially
it's
with
just like
the
a
amount of
never-ending cycle.
overdoses that we experience and the amount of suicides in teenagers. It's fucking crazy. But it's all because we are forcing them to fit into a mold that was never meant for human beings in general. Fuck ADHD or autism. Human beings in general. Like in the sense of
Yeah, no. It's
I don't wanna say fuck
and that's
it.
good because like you again. So we have this problem. Like so, you're saying, well, the drug problem. So a lot of people will interpret it. Okay, the drugs are bad. So the idea comes from okay, so the drugs are bad. So what about the people who bring them in? And that's how you create that tribalism again. It's just that people just want an enemy. Because it's true, in every good story that we have, the hero has to vanquish something that's considered the evil or the wrong. And this person that's considered evil wrong is almost never humanized. We can't humanize.
Correct.
And any time you even see even if we're going to 1920s America, if you look at any depictions of the Irish or Italians or Chinese people, they're never shown as depicted. They're always given these cartoonish kind of features.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's just so to deviate them as being like these aren't really quote-unquote humans.
Yeah.
And they'll say no, it's more characteristic and stuff like that. But no, it's meant to subconsciously slowly make you dehumanize these people, and that's the same with the Jews and naturally during the Nazi Germany. It's done that to slowly create that.
Right. They had the cartoons with their noses
Right.
extremely big and all of these things. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it is. It's like it's the idea of like people always want to create an enemy, and that's something that's like so ingrained to us that like I don't even see there's a way that you can remove that as a society.
So it exists, and to try to pretend that it doesn't exist or that we can have it not exist, I think is not the way to go about it. But to offer people a choice, you can live like that if you want. But I'm trying to build something else that I think other people want to live like,
Right.
and we can't really force anybody to do anything. And to even try is to not accept them where they're at. So accepting them where they're at is all of it, all of the above. So it's it's not like it's hard to explain, but in the sense of always having an enemy, I don't live like that. And I know that there's a whole sect of people who don't think like that. And if we're given a choice to be in an environment where there isn't an enemy, but there's a thirst for knowledge and a thirst for connection and community, then we can slowly change the world.
Community just doesn't exist the way it used to.
It doesn't exist at all.
I was having a conversation with a client of mine for this business that I help, and she's Dominican, and she's like, everyone here, it's such a rush.
Yeah.
You're hustling to all these places. There's no relax time. She's like, when we're on the island, you get there when you get there, and the celebration is going to be had either way. I may be 5 hours late, but everyone's still there, and we're still going to have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's just have to be there, have to be on time, and this is how long it is, and if you're late, you're the worst.
Yeah.
Also,
A lot of that has to do with culture, too.
Yeah, it is culturally based.
We don't have a culture as Americans.
Right.
Our culture is
Hustle,
go,
hustle,
go, go,
hustle,
go, go, go.
Yeah, work,
We-
work, 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 work.
The Protestant
Spend.
from the Pilgrims, the Protestant work mentality.
Yeah, it's sad though because she's like, I was out of eggs one day and my husband told me you can't ask the neighbor for eggs because
Meanwhile,
they won't give it to you.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back then it was like you had meals together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That was like you knew them. You were in their home. You were
Correct.
with their kids.
Yeah.
Like
There was community.
yeah.
And like that's a big thing that I'm an advocate for is we say it takes a village to raise our kids, but we fucking left our kids alone to raise themselves.
Right. iPads and
And
Technology,
it really
definitely.
this is
TV.
This is the result of it. This is the result of people living without connection with other people. They're very connected with their things, but they're very disconnected with the
Each
people
other,
around
yeah.
them. And they would rather be stuck in tribalism instead of like remove their freaking iPod from their face and like see the people in front of them for who they are.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's an example. I mean, do you know your neighbors? Like, do you know the people who live in the... Well, just in general question, you both of you guys, or just general, do you know that the people who live around you?
I help
'Cause
my
most
neighbor
people
with his car.
I do actually, because
very-
that's how I grew up.
Yeah, same.
So like, I mean, you don't see kids outside like you used to.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, my mom would yell at me for talking to neighbors when I was a kid,
Right.
but coming back into who I am and myself, like this house that we've lived in now, I'm good friends with both my neighbors because I get pie from my neighbor every holiday.
That's all you had to say.
Like, I get pie.
I get pie.
look, it's just like, hey, say hi, wave. There's so many people that'll just drive by the neighborhood and they're just so unfriendly. I'm like,
Yeah.
And I walk throughout my neighborhood every day with my dog.
Yeah.
That's another practice.
Yeah.
Like, I just go on a mile walk every day and
It's because we have so much technology and stuff like that we get so entertained inside that the house becomes almost like a fortress. But back then, like if we're talking about even like in the 80s and stuff, like when there was nothing on television, people just go outside and they just talk to their neighbors, and you still see that in cities and stuff like that people like will just hang out with each other outside of it. But like even the creations of something like a suburb, it's almost it's created by its intention to become isolated.
correct.
right, yeah. And I wish I was older because I wish I was around during block parties. That just sounds like a great idea.
So when I visited Italy, it blows my mind today that I didn't take advantage of it when I was a kid. But the whole block was my family.
Right.
Like it was a whole block, and it was all Altieri's and maiden names, and
Yeah,
like
the people that have lived there for fucking hundreds of years.
And when you talk about community, like it's insane how interconnected they were and how self-sufficient they were. Like they had their own livestock, they had their own vegetation, like they had their own buildings, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Like it was like a city of just our family.
Literally just having this conversation with someone like 2 weeks ago about like the blue regions in like Italy and things like that. Like there's no such thing as a nursing home. They don't even exist.
Yeah, they're
your
very
family
uncommon.
takes care of you.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if your family dies and you're the last one left and anything happens to you, your community, your neighbors that you grew up with and that your parents grew up with, they take care of you.
And a lot of times in Italy, especially in that environment that I just described, when you get older, you don't lose that function like we do over here in America.
do not.
My aunt, 99, Aunt Zila Luzine, 99, climbing up fucking mountains.
Yeah, walking every
Like-
day up steep rocks
It's
and
just
hills.
normal
Yeah.
because our bodies were meant for this kind of work. Like it literally is what we're made for,
Right.
and that's what they did. Like they were more of the vegetate. Like they have their own, like they're not hunter gatherers, but
Yeah.
they still have like this.
They still do that though.
It's a
They have
regular-
their herbs. They
Correct.
have the vegetables that they need to make,
It was really cool, and they provide for
their
their
bread
community
and everything
outside of them.
Correct.
I grew up in a town also in Italy, and like there are people who are still to this day they're like around in their 90s, and they have the money to retire. They probably
don't-
a lot of them have millions, but they still work on farms. Because that's what they know.
Every
and that's
day.
What makes them,
And
yeah,
that's
What
yeah,
they've
that's
been
it's
doing for
crazy.
years.
yeah.
It's crazy because I literally feel that calling to have my own like farm
Right.
and like work
Land
hard
is the
until
way.
I die
Right.
because
Oh, yeah.
it's so fulfilling.
Land is the way.
I helped a friend work on a hemp farm, and just seeing those things grow, it like, and I'm not just talking about hemp. I'm talking about fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
I love it because it's just so.
It's self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Number one, it's in my blood apparently,
Oh, yeah.
but it's definitely very satisfying.
Yeah.
and it feels like.
Something so fruitful about
Well,
it.
you get that self accomplishment, but then you get the other positive being like you know what you're eating, you know what you're consuming.
Right.
And
I know everything that's going into this meal every day.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like I put
That's
in
the
the
dream.
time to grow it. I put in the love, and now we're flourishing for
Correct.
it, like from it.
Like
you
I
know?
can't wait until that is reality because that's definitely I've learned a lot about growing stuff for sure because of the fact that I want to be self-sufficient, and then that's also why I learned how to hunt,
Right.
like certain things. So we won't mention them here.
And my dad's a country boy, so I mean, I've seen him shoot fucking squirrels and raccoon and stuff.
Anthony Wright and I.
It's dropping names.
Yep, I'm dropping names here. I'll bleep it out. Yeah, we just hunt gators. And
Look.
it's so like. As long as I'm eating the meat, I'll keep hunting.
Yeah.
But if I don't eat the meat, I won't.
Yeah, there's no point in doing it.
I won't do it unless
Yeah.
I'm eating the meat.
Yeah.
Because I did have to say no a couple times.
Do you consider that a sport, hunting?
People do it for sport,
Yeah.
but that's what he's saying. He's
I would
not
like
gonna
to do it more for
For a
living.
Yeah.
necessity.
Correct.
And I agree with that too.
Because well, but also with hunting is like it's very expensive. I can't afford hunting.
Right.
Like
Oh yeah,
like
the guns,
to
everything,
hunt deer or anything like
travel,
legally. Like
cabin, all of it. Yeah,
there's no way I can afford that
Licenses,
shit. But
yeah.
like, I can hunt shit. It basically like in the sense of like I don't. I know how to survive if I need to.
Yeah. That's a good thing. I feel that's a skill that's like slowly dying off because as things are becoming more accessible and more convenient, it also makes people less self-sufficient. So like now a lot of people, they'll either call for services or they'll have someone else take care of that.
Correct.
Or they have, they basically use technology to solve their problems. But if there was like ever such a thing as like a blackout and stuff like that, people would be useless.
Fucked.
A lot of people
Yeah.
would be essentially useless.
And I just want people to know, like, I've learned all this stuff the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So if you don't think you can learn this stuff quick, you can if you're really interested in it because
Like-
it's life changing for sure.
I know. And I know social media, we had a little discussion about it. It's kind of like it just distracts you. But I do love those channels that,
Yeah, you can utilize it.
yes, that give you those little quick tips. Like
Yep.
if you're out in the wild, how to make a fire, how to filter your water. Like
100%.
That shit is so useful.
I agree with that.
Yeah. It's not all bad, people. It's not all bad.
It's all about the user.
It is about the user.
It
It is definitely tailored to
good
your
servant,
brain.
but a bad master.
And we're talking about food, and I haven't eaten all day, and my stomach is just growling. So if you hear it, I'm sorry.
That's a good note to leave it on. Thank you guys for joining me so much. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully, we'll have you both on again in the near future.
Yeah,
So,
sounds good.
You guys have a great day out there, wherever the camera is.
Yeah.
It's
See ya.
one of these.